today I've got Zoe Fragou, and we're going to talk about creativity, how you can be creative, and how you can, if you're not creative, how you can be creative, and if you're creative, how you can build on it and be even more creative. Before we get into it, Zoe, tell people where they can find you.
Well, hello, team. For starters, thank you very much for having me over. This is Zoe. Physically, they can find me in Athens, in Greece.
Yeah, lovely.
But online, I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. You will find with my name, Zoe Fragou, and I also have a brand new website, fragouzoe.com. But as a millennial, basically, I'm everywhere. But I would recommend my professional channel.
So the best place to get you is LinkedIn. So Zoe, tell us, before we get in and talk about creativity, tell us a little bit about your journey, because when I read your LinkedIn profile, you know, you're an organizational psychologist. You're doing all kinds of things. You're doing a PhD as well at the moment, or something.
Yes.
So you're involved in all these things. How is it? And what is it that's created this? And what is it? The drive? Is it what? How are you got to where you are today?
Well, I'm really committed in what I'm doing. It's not just something that I do for work. It's something that I actually really value. When I say I'm empowering mental health in the workspace and diversity and equality, it's not just something for me that I make my living with. It's my actual passion. And I think that that's what's missing nowadays. And basically, that's also how it connects with creativity. Because back in the day, not having diversity, not having equality was the status quo. So creative people were the ones that actually challenged that and said, no, you know what, let's change it. Let's do it another way. And let's see how that can bring extra value and something new. I'm a psychologist, like you said, organizational psychologist for businesses. I work with corporations all over the world. What I do is that I implement trainings, team building activities, sensitivity trainings also for minorities. But at the same time, a specialty is what we call culture change. So basically, when there is a buyout or a merger or a difference in succession, or just, times are changing and there's new management and they want to explore a new direction, that's when basically they bring me on board in order to run all these changes without chaos.
And I think, I think that's so important, because I've been involved in organizational change where there wasn't anything like that, and you were left to pretty much get on with it. And
not so good.
It's not so good. Yes.
Yeah.
So in terms of creativity, this is about mastering the art of creativity. So there's lots of talk, I think, out there about creatives, and we often get people, when we coach people and we say, you need to understand digital and start working with digital and getting on social, and immediately they say, I'm not creative, I can't do this. So what do you say to people that say, I'm not creative, I can't do this?
Okay, I will tell you one thing. Basically, I'll tell you what Brian Bache said. He's a creativity researcher with the Sussex University. And he said that after all these endless years of research on creativity, basically we learned nothing. But we did learn one thing. Even Berkeley College, during the 70s, they started and they ran so many experiments about creativity. But there is only one thing that we do know, and this is that it is 100% trainable. In all the experiments, the only variable that made some sense and there was some correlation with creativity was how educated a person is. So the more educated a person is, the more creative they are actually. So when someone tells me, I'm not creative, I can do that, I say, sit down and read, learn
Right.
more. Learn. The more you're going to learn, the more creative you can get.
And in terms of reading, what is it they need to read? Is that books or magazines or newspapers or what?
Basically everything. As long as you have an open mind and you keep your horizons open and you're searching for new stimulants, everything can work. So I'm not going to tell you read the creativity book, because in my opinion, everybody has their own journey. So for me, for example, what works is literature. And I've said in many interviews before that through literature is the only way that we can experience a lot of lives, because we trigger our imagination and we create our own words and our own perspectives about what we're reading. Therefore, this is probably one way to build creativity, but it's not the only way. When we think about creativity, we shouldn't approach it as a mechanism that somehow there is a switch on and a switch off. It's more about random acts of creativity during our daily life. Break your routine patterns. I'm going to use a bodybuilding example, okay? So if you've met anyone that's bodybuilding, you see that after a while, they reach a plateau in their growth, in their muscle growth. Therefore, their habitual workouts don't work anymore. What do they need to do? They need to shock their muscles. Same way happens with creativity. We need to shock our brains. And the only way to do that is by start questioning and doubting everything we know. If what I know is the answer was not approachable anymore and I couldn't do it, what else could I do?
So yeah, well, before we came on live, we asked each other about what did we do between Christmas and New Year, and did we go on holiday? And I said, well, I took some time off. I didn't go away. And I like going away because, and I guess it's about shocking my brain into a new, breaking away from current processes and things that I'm used to, and actually going somewhere which I don't know, and having to work things out. And for me, that actually frees up my creativity because of the fact I'm having to do things new. Mm-hmm. Do you understand that? And that's kind of what we're suggesting.
A change of scenery is also important, but it's not just about big things, because a travel is a bigger thing. It's about small everyday things, because there are a lot of people that consider themselves creative or adventurous because they've bungee jumped once. But it's not about this one thing that you did once in your life that now gives you the label of being creative. It's, let's say, for positive psychology, they call creativity a modus operandi, a way of acting, like existing through life by challenging what I know. A very nice exercise that people can do is the yes exercise. What does this mean? Try to change every no that you would say, like a proposal. Somebody invites you somewhere and normally you wouldn't go, or somebody asks you to do an activity with them and normally you wouldn't do it. Try saying yes instead and see where it takes you. This is how we shock our brains into being more creative.
One of my colleagues, Eric Doyle, did that. He said, for 6 months, I'm going to say yes to everything. And there was a whole. He ended up on doing a TED talk.
Wow.
Purely because whether he would have said yes to it in the first place, but it was that journey of yes, and all of those things just seemed so. I totally sign up to that. Yes.
Yeah, there are many different psychology approaches that still basically, with different words, they say the same thing. In cognitive behavioral therapy, we call that big bang of actions. What does this mean? That the more you're doing things and the more you're shifting up what you normally do and what you normally know, the more possible it is to find a reward in the outside world, like to find things and stimulus that are working for you and are helping you.
So should we make time for creativity? Should we blocking out time in our calendar? Even is it for going for walks, or what should we be doing?
Well, like I said, I don't really believe in this thing. Many professionals might tell you, yes, book an hour and be creative, like do brainstorming, be mindful. But it's not about that. It's about an actual mindset change, a mindset shift that from now on, I will exit my comfort zone. I won't be locked inside the box. I will understand that there is no box to begin with. So I don't think that it's about finding some time. It's about trying new things, chasing adventure, keep exploring, coming alive outside of our norms, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you also talked about reading fiction books because you said it frees our mind and helps our imagination.
Mm-hmm, very much. Also board games at the same time, because again, you get into a mood. And you know what's interesting about creativity? Many people, they think that it has to do with intelligence, but the relationship between intelligence and creativity is actually what we call curvilinear. That means that while the one increases, the other also increases, but only up to a certain point. After this particular point, while the one increases, the other one decreases. And this is why we find so often many people that are very smart, but at the same time, very rigid and not creative at all. And then when you see children, they are so creative and they're always trying things.
Len Wood, who you had a conversation with on social, I kind of connected you just before we came on. He's and I had a board game on New Year, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was very simple to explain, and we got into it, and it was, and it did enable you. It was about colors.
Well, I'm a huge board game geek, so I'm
okay,
the
right,
last one to ask.
and it really does. It really did open my mind to certain things. Oh, I never thought about that, and for me, I love that feeling of going, I never thought about that, because it means that I've had a blind spot that I've not been able to see.
Another activity I would like to propose to people that really want to explore their creativity and they want to grow it is improvisation, improv theater. The reason I suggest it very strongly is because not only do I do it and do I teach it to the clients and do I train them into improv techniques, but basically what you're doing through improv is that not only do you learn how to trust the rest of the team, but you create some new aspects of yourself and you explore new aspects that you didn't even know existed. You put yourself through scenarios that are unapproachable in the real life. Therefore, if someone wants to try something new in order to explore their creativity, I totally recommend improv.
Remind me about the improv. So normally what we would do when someone says, shall we do this, we say no. In the improv have a rule, don't they, that when someone says
yes
this,
and
you say, you say yes and.
Exactly. And the reason I love working and putting improv into my trainings is because it's amazing how it works for colleagues. It teaches you a very important principle for work. You can't cancel other people and their thoughts and their ideas. You always have to build up on them. So normally what we usually do is they tell us something, no, this can't work. No, this is awful. But with improv, we learn this particular rule. Yes, and. Okay, yes, and I'm also going to do this so that it works better. Yes, and I'm also going to do that so we can be safe. So, yeah.
I think it's a great message. I've just been in a meeting where someone basically said no rather than yes and it's like in meetings you're constantly sort of like banging up against something rather than the open the openness of actually being able to say even if you don't like it, it's about embracing it and adding to it. So I'm doing three things at once at the moment. I'm putting Len Wood's comment up and also thinking about the next question. So give us some more techniques.
More techniques about, well, we already talked about improv and we talked about reading and we talked about board games. Other techniques, well, like I said, I think that in this particular moment, it's not so important on focusing in a technique, but mostly on what positive psychology tells us, which is that creativity is a modus operandi, a way of acting, a way of being. So in order to be more creative, we need to try things that we normally wouldn't try and to do things that normally, we find uncomfortable or we don't like. And that's a way. Something that I ordered recently, but I haven't really tried it yet, but I love it. It's called The Adventure Challenge. So basically, it's a book that you can buy as a family or for friends. They have different editions, even for couples. And it has a lot of challenges inside this book that you don't know upfront what kind of challenge it's going to be. So you have to scratch it, and then the challenge is released.
Oh, wow.
And oh, yeah. And the rule is that no drawbacks. You can't take it back. The moment you scratch a challenge, you need to do it. So even if it's for something to do with friends, that's alternative, or about for a couple. And basically that. I totally recommend that. I haven't started it yet, but I can't think that I'm not going to like it.
Well, when you do, you need to come back and tell us how it works.
Absolutely.
An awful lot of fun.
When I finish it, because it comes with a book that you put the pictures of its challenge. So I will show you and tell you what I've learned.
So remind everybody what that is again, please.
The Adventure Challenge.
The Adventure Challenge.
Yes.
And I think so. I think there's what you're talking about is this ability for you to accept you need to experiment and giving yourself the culture, because there's a number of things to do with culture. One is about me as the individual. one is then about me and the people that I love, and my friends, and then the next is where I work and my colleagues. So there's a kind of a thing that you've got to go through in terms of making sure that everybody knows that you're going to experiment. I guess I've never smoked, but I guess it's a bit like saying I'm giving up smoking. You've got to basically tell everybody you're doing that.
At the same time, it's important to, when you want to be more creative, to find other like-minded, inspiring people that are also creative. So it's a little like, have you heard when we say that if you're the smartest person in a room, it's time for you to change room?
You're in
same
the wrong
thing
room.
applies. Yeah, like same thing applies in creativity. If you are the most creative person there and you want to grow your creativity, then maybe you need to change your room. And at the same time, people get to obsessed about their industry, especially when it comes to work or people that they share interests with. It's not about that. You can learn things and you can be inspired by every industry. So if you are in tech, you don't have to find other creative tech people. Go find artists, go find psychologists, soft skills people, people that have a different approach in life. Those are the ones that are going to give you the perspective you're missing.
There's a saying that you become an average of the 5 people that you know.
Yeah, it doesn't work though. I mean, it's a saying, but there was
and that's I'm backing up what you're saying, which is that if you're the people that I like people that challenge me. One of the things about the team that we have is the fact that I've got a whole bunch of people that say, no, that's not right. Or where they say, you haven't thought about this. And I'm very, very privileged to have those people, because what they're doing is that they show things where, as I come back to, I didn't know, I didn't realize that, I didn't understand that, I didn't see that, and that's such an amazing thing to have people that say, well, have you thought about this?
Another thing that I would like to mention when it comes to creativity that I think it's important to be said is that creativity is very often confused with negative emotions. And in fact, negative emotions can also bring creativity. That's why we've seen so many artists like Virginia Woolf or Vincent van Gogh that through their misery and their sadness, they've managed to create amazing art. But research shows that positive emotions are actually more stable and more consistent. And maybe this is why and how there have been people that have been very successful and very creative throughout their journey through negative emotions, but not long-term. There have also been people that suicided, and there have also been people that the moment something changed and they weren't miserable anymore, they couldn't also produce art or outcomes. And the same goes not only for artists, but also for business people. We see people that if they're not on burnout mode, they think they can't operate. They have to be burnout, otherwise they can't be successful. And that's not the case. You need to learn how to be productive and creative through your positive energy and through enjoying what you're doing. It's not necessary that you need to hate something in order to produce. This is a little bit of our stereotype around creativity. We always have our minds, when we think about super creative people, we think all this creative genius that suffers, but at the same time, somehow they manage to be, and that's just their presentation in the movies. But real life people that actually are creative, they're pretty healthy.
Yeah, I remember someone telling me that they had to suffer for their art. And it was actually a photographer, because what he was saying was that you need to move closer. You need to basically, to take photographs, you actually need to get closer to the, and I can understand that, but in a way that that was, he was trying to explain that what you needed to do was to get into the text of the photography. And I agree with you that what we need to do is, taking ourselves outside of our comfort zone can be hard.
Yeah, and learn how to channel our happiness. Sometimes,
but yes, but we need to be happy about it as well.
Yeah, channeling our happiness is the most productive and safe and stable way in order to also channel our creativity.
And trying to be in a happy place and being the best of ourselves, is a difficult thing. But also being happy is so important.
Yeah, but the problem is that usually when you get a reward, like when you channel your negative emotions and then somehow you manage to be proactive and you have an actual productive and successful outcome, a product that you have released, then it's very difficult to teach yourself to do the same thing without having the negative and the sadness emotions. So basically, there's also that many people believe that outside their sadness and their misery, they're nothing. But also that's not the case. We can think, I'm a very big pop culture junkie, so I bring a lot of pop culture references. So there's Amy Winehouse, and she released 2-3 albums, and they were amazing, but she also died at 97. And then there's Taylor Swift, that has released equally great music, but also 13 albums. And she's 33 now, and she's still happy, and she's still producing albums. So it's not just about doing this one thing that's going to be amazing. It's about doing even smaller amazing things, but for a longer time.
Yeah, there was a rumor, wasn't there, that about Taylor Swift was that unfortunately that she was going to be happier in a relationship, and therefore not produce any great songs.
Yeah,
because the view was, and as the same with Chris Wright in Coldplay, was that the only way that Chris Wright, is it right, from Coldplay wrote any great songs was that he got dumped.
Yeah, but then both of them, they were the smart ones, because both of them kept releasing a lot of albums and getting Grammy after Grammy, and they're actually very happy for many years now, both of them.
But I always get the feeling that Taylor Swift is happy now.
6 years in a relationship, she's very happy, and she's released 5 albums.
Oh,
in these
yeah,
6 years.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like that as I like that metaphor in terms of saying, here's Amy Winehouse, which is, she was such an amazing creative talent, and Taylor Swift, who's an amazing creative talent, and just look at the way their careers have gone, and I do kind of feel that Taylor Swift, there's a positivity, whereas Amy Winehouse, much as I love her, what she's done, there always seemed to be a bit of a negativity about it.
Yeah, I see Lenwood here wrote that this is what led Skywalker to the dark side. Thank you for this comment.
Yes. So, Zoe, that's been fantastic. Love the conversation. We've had some great chat as well. Creativity is such a powerful thing. We could probably talk about it for hours. Thank you again for coming on and talking about it and dispelling some of the myths that I think are out there in terms of creativity, and giving us some great guidance. Remind people where they can get hold of you.
Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. My name is Fragou Zoe there, and also my website, fragouzoe.com. I will be very happy to continue the conversation and share more insights on the topic.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on and sharing your insight. It's a subject I didn't ever think I was a creative until I wrote my first book. And it was only at that point when I actually realized that I actually had creativity. And now the conversation here, and I can be creative from being negative, and I can be creative from being positive. But what I'm taking away is that I do need to focus a lot on the positivity of the creativity. And that's certainly something that I've learned today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. And I'll see you